Hello, I'm Marianne Dalton, and welcome to Active Aging, a program devoted to exploring issues of importance to older people and people living with disabilities. Each month, we'll bring you information and resources to help you live a healthy, satisfying, and independent life. This month, we'll be discussing a special program that will be happening in Somerville, discussing how to make your home work for the long run. My guest today is Suzanne Wilkinson. Suzanne is a board member at Somerville Cambridge Elder Services. She is also the founder of a new community organization called Staying Put, which is helping people explore options for aging in place. She's here to discuss aging in place, universal design, and a very special event that's coming up later in September called Making Your Home Work for the Long Term, or Long Run, something like that. But anyways, welcome to the program, Suzanne.
Thank you.
And just to start out, could you tell us a little bit about this program? It sounds like a really exciting event.
Well, I hope it will be. Thanks, Marianne. Thanks for having me. It is an event that's co-sponsored with the Staying Put group, Somerville Cambridge Elder Services, and the Somerville Council on Aging. The workshop is the culmination of some 6 months of planning, and it's emphasizing how as people get older, they don't have to adapt to their home. They can make their home adapt to their needs. So we're really interested in giving people ideas and affordable ideas and choices about staying at home. And if they have to do some alterations of some sort, we hope to give some ideas about that. We'll have a panel of some design experts and builders, and we'll have a lot of opportunity for interaction. So if people are concerned about, will their home meet their needs for the long run? If they're thinking about how am I going to be able to manage, we hope that they'll come, or if they have concerns already because of some sort of change in their abilities, this is the time to start thinking about it. We don't want people to end up, doing it on the fly or doing it in a crisis. So the workshop is going to be the 29th of September.
And wow, and we'll, I know we'll talk more about that later in the interview. But I know that part of this, your interest has been spurred by the whole aging in place, aging in community movement, and people may not be aware that it actually is a movement, and that it's part of a whole set of policies. And maybe you could give us some background on that.
Okay. Well, I think for a lot of people, the idea of staying at home has just always been a natural thing. It just happens, and they don't make a big deal out of it. But really, because families have spread apart, people are more mobile, there's been change in the economy, a lot of people are having to, it's more of a choice you have to make. Am I going to stay where I am? Am I going to move to perhaps where my children are? Do I want to choose to go to a retirement community or assisted living or some sort of an environment outside of where they are? Those of us lucky enough to live in an interesting urban environment where we have a lot of our friends and social activities are really having to think about, well, this is where I want to be, and in the community is the place I really want to be. So that's the sort of personal side of it. On the other side of it is the realization that as people are getting older, and there's a larger and larger group of people, baby boomers are supposed to be hitting the retirement age in just a short while, communities may be kind of unprepared for the amount of services or the number of people who are present. So we want to sort of wed the idea of, many people want to wed the idea of aging in community as a very active activity rather than a passive one. And it has created policies, new services, the village model, and there are a lot of ideas. The emphasis, I think, is on community and the activities that you can do in community.
So it sounds like there's really a need for communities and citizens to do some sort of like strategic planning around these issues to help people make it possible for themselves to age in place.
I think so. Yeah. I think it is a great opportunity. We as individuals, as well as groups like Staying Put, do have opportunities, and it's happening all over the country. I mean, I want to say Somerville is not the only place that's thinking about this. I've been sort of following this for a while, and there are lots of groups and organizations that are springing up. They're paying a lot more attention to the aging population, and there are many different generations of people in that category now. I mean, I think we have to recognize
young,
that
old,
there's
old,
the
old,
old, and So I don't want to leave anybody out of that, and I don't even want to necessarily say only it's the retired people. You know, the ideal model would be that everybody's in the community and we're all aging together. But the point is that it is an opportunity, and it needs to be an opportunity for communities to sort of seize the idea of doing some special planning or some special elder resource areas. You know,
well, probably programs like we're talking about, supporting people to, you know, figure out how they can adapt their homes to be elder friendly.
Yeah, and so the idea is looking at options. And what are the options? What are the ideas? What are some new ways, new organizational structures that we can use to deal with that? And I was going to say that, of course, organizations like Somerville Cambridge Elder Services has been there as a resource organization for a long time, along with groups like Encore Careers, which is helping people look at, you know, what's next, AARP. I mean, so there are various levels of organizations that are helping do that, but, you know, an idea that it can be done at the neighborhood level, you know, that it can be a grassroots is very appealing, and, you know, having relationships in community are really important.
Because I think until recently a lot of it has been, you know, the supports for people in the community have been very agency-based. For example, Somerville Cambridge Elder Services, where I work, offers a number of services like homemaking, personal care, transportation. But it sounds like you're thinking about other ways to support people's independence. And can you talk a little bit about that? Yeah.
Well, maybe it's very much the sort of return to community and the ideal of people watching out for each other. The idea of neighbors being able to be in tune with each other and exchanging, if you will, goods and informations and services. You know, if I watch your kid for a while, then, you know, you might be able to help me when I need some errands done. And that doesn't have to only be among, you know, people who are older, but across generations. I think I can also use resources from outside the community. I can get ideas and ideas for programs from the internet or from national organizations. But if I'm not connected with people locally, and the neighborhood organizations and the neighborhood connections aren't there for people to be able to take advantage of social contact, for cultural opportunities, for being with their, you know, with their family, then the services are just kind of there helping them a little bit. You know, they're kind of just there helping them hang on.
Yeah, it's interesting how this whole idea of the naturally occurring retirement community, which, you know, is a kind of buzzword, is really related to that idea of self-empowerment and people helping themselves and helping their neighbors in a kind of more natural way than the agency coming in from above to bring down the services to people.
It's really important. But I think there's a little bit of inhibition to get over. People sort of need opportunities to sort of reach out and, you know, have conversations with each other.
Yeah, no, it's so often, it's sort of sad, easier for people to be isolated than sometimes, you know, connect. The society sort of supports that isolation. So, you know, it's exciting that people want to try and find ways to overcome that.
Well, we all think we should be able to do everything for ourselves. And, you know, I think that we need to realize that we're interconnected. And that's the strength of being in neighborhoods.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. So what about the notion of making your home fit for the needs of, you know, of your long-term needs? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, that's the home is the focus of this first workshop, because that's the place where we will have our lifestyle and where we will be. And to give you an example, we'd like to give people ideas about how they can adjust the conditions in their home. And when I say conditions, we're talking about how you move around the space, how you conduct your ordinary activities of daily living, your cooking or just taking care of yourself, watching television, reading, entertaining friends, being together with people. Are all those places that are ideally supporting the activities you want to be able to continue doing? So what we'd like to do in the workshop, again, the idea of home being, make it what it can be. And one of the angles we want to introduce people to are principles of universal design. as a framework for thinking how to adapt the home. And universal design is a set of principles that favors an environment or products being usable by people of any ability and any level of physical ability, and not needing any sort of extraordinary ability to use it.
Oh, interesting.
So an example of that would be
oh, well, some of the OXO products.
some of those OXO products.
Yeah. We had one, but I'll be showing it to you today. Yeah.
The ones that have the large fat handles.
Yes, I think those are very recognizable.
They're very recognizable, and they work well for people who might have stiffness problems or strength problems. They give you a kind of leverage. You know, a lot of the tools are intended to give you easy use. Now think about how much easier it might be to use your house if you have things well positioned, like shelves that move, or shelves that are at your entranceway before you come into your home, or as you're moving through your home, where you can place things. So you're not trying to juggle too many things. You know, let's say you're carrying a bag of groceries and you have a purse and maybe something else, and you can't see very well. How about creating a little better lighting for the areas where you're passing through your home? There are many new products that can be installed in homes and in bathrooms and kitchens especially, that can help people with some varying level of ability continue to carry out those activities. So a lot of design experts are incorporating those kinds of assistive technologies into the actual design of the space.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it, addresses too some of the major issues like fall prevention. Falls are one of the, the leading causes of disability and even, death among older people.
Right.
So to address some of the things to make the home not only, usable but safe.
Safe.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't want people to feel scared, but I do think that's a real problem.
Yeah.
That you go along for a long time using your. I mean, we've all, will end up living in our homes maybe for a long time. When we're stronger or more mobile, or taller, we don't notice that we're overreaching, or that our bathrooms don't have the grab bars, or that there are rugs we can slip on. So you're absolutely right. Very integrated into the idea of universal design is the idea that safety, because you've improved the general conditions, the ambient conditions, the lighting, removed hazards, is a great benefit.
Yeah, no, it's interesting though to try to get people to recognize that this is an important thing to think about, because there's such a tendency, I think, to think that I don't have to think about that yet. But it's not just an older person's things. It's at every age when your eyesight, starts to grow a little weaker, or there are many limitations that we face in our lives at earlier phases.
Right. Well, you don't have to be, a very, very frail person to experience a change in your ability. I mean, anybody who's had a little bit of an injury or a sports injury, or,
they know the challenge.
knows exactly what happens. And so we want to stress that it isn't something only for people in certain stages, or people who are only disabled or wheelchair bound, that all of us could benefit from this kind of assessment.
It's never too early to start thinking about it.
Never too early, absolutely.
So the ADA, Americans with Disability Act, sort of guidelines, I think a lot of people think, those take care of sort of the issues of access and making our environment safe and accessible. Can you address that as it relates to universal design principles?
Well, I wish it were the case that there were standards for building, but in fact the ADA principles, Americans with Disabilities Act principles, and all of the progress that's been made really only applies to public spaces and public buildings and buildings of certain sizes. And where we are now in Somerville, we have, our private housing spaces, no matter where we're living, have not been built with that in mind. So the
housing stock here, it's really tough to grow old in,
Well, I think that's one of the special challenges. And again, I want to go back to our particular workshop for Somerville is geared to hearing people